the marriage box. Should we dive in? Right, and these are like top tips for a good marriage. You ready? Number 1, being a good student. We are often encouraged to believe that someone who truly loves us should approve of everything about us and should love us for who we really are. The only people who should be loved for who they really are perfect people, and they don't exist. The rest of us should accept that a partner may legitimately want to teach us how to become a better version of ourselves. Unfortunately, many of us, at the first sign that the other is adopting a teacher's tone, we tend to assume that we are being attacked and betrayed, and therefore close our ears to instruction, reacting with sarcasm, aggression to the teacher. We should stop judging these attempts at instruction so harshly, rather than reading every lesson as an assault on our whole being, a sign that we are about to be abandoned and humiliated. We should take it for what it is, an indication that someone truly cares for us, even if they aren't breaking the news perfectly. So can you be a good student? Can you listen without being upset? Next, this leads us nice to the next one, sulking. In love, we are liable to be, by instinct, ferocious sulkers. It's not a nice thing to own up, but the impulse is universal. Behind the sulk lies a deep, interesting, problematic, and almost touching conviction. The sulker is gripped by the idea that being properly loved means being perfectly understood by someone else. Sulking builds on some occasional deep, wonderful moments of childhood, typically repeated in the opening days of love, when we have the astonishing experience of someone intuitively grasping the small and large areas of our personality. When we sulk, we're silently referring to this beautiful notion and insisting that our partner live up to it. They naturally cannot. We want to tell them about our day, but they went on about the plumber. They went out and bought the wrong kind of ironing board without asking, and it cost far too much. They were deep in conversation when we were ready to leave the party. All these errors we may punish with vibrant and extensive sulks. Ungracious though a sulk can seem, it is in fact a hopeful expression of love. When we sulk, we are assuming that the other person has an almost magical insight into our mind. This is a sweet, but in the long term, very dangerous notion. We should never hold it up against our partners that they need to have our intentions and feelings explained to them very patiently without aggression. The real sign of love is not magical insight, it's the willingness to explain and to listen calmly. Are you sulker? Sex in marriage. Sex is meant to be wonderful, of course. For a while, it might have been a driving force in a relationship. Furthermore, our culture endlessly promotes the idea that great sex is the primary sign of closeness. They haven't had sex in a while is taken to be the leading sign of the death of love. Yet a more accurate account of human sexuality would normalize the sorrows that attach themselves to sex and marriage. It is nearly impossible to be married and in the long term enjoy an extraordinary sex life. There are deep-seated reasons for this. Relationships naturally become very complex areas of compromise and negotiation. We have to be circumspect and careful. We have to measure our words and rein in our feelings. However, sex ideally demands the opposite, an uncensored, carefree version of ourselves. It's hard to submit to being harshly taken by the person you've just been disagreeing with about a utility bill. It's awkward to revel in calling one's partner rude words when you've recently been prickly that they didn't display enough sympathy for your mother's broken ankle. The very forces that keep a good enough relationship going, patience, kindness, compromise, biting one's tongue, and work systematically against the raw drama of sex. The waning of sex is far more than we collectively admit, a sign that a marriage is stabilizing, not failing. If we admitted this more publicly, we would be less panicked, less ashamed, and a little less resentful when the sex became less intense and less frequent. And we'd be less haunted by the unreal secret, tantalizing idea. This could all be so different with someone else. It wouldn't be. The fault isn't us or our partner. Our condition is mostly the strange, necessary price of genuinely sharing a life. Panic not. Why we married who we married. Have you ever considered that? Part of making a marriage work involves understanding why we picked our partner. There could have been quite a few others after all. The standard answer is that we picked them because they were exceptionally well suited to making us happy. The more complicated psychotherapeutic answer is that we picked them because they felt familiar. All of us look to recreate within our adult relationships some of the feelings we knew well in childhood. I like this. That includes care and tenderness, of course. However, very often the love we experienced was blended with a few trickier dynamics. Perhaps a bad temper, constant busyness, gloom, or fickleness. It's almost inevitable that we've married someone who carries echoes of some of the faults of the parent whose gender we're attracted to. Fortunately, this doesn't have to be catastrophic. We simply have to direct our efforts to changing the way we characteristically deal with the difficulties that we are attracted to. The way we tend to approach them is in the manner of the children we once were. For example, we over-personalize issues. We don't explain our distress. We panic. We retreat into silence. We go for attention-seeking antics. But there is an opportunity to move from a childlike to an adult pattern of response to our partner's most challenging sides. There is a properly grown-up, less agitated, less fragile way of handling them that would solve the problem of having married, as we all do, a fascinatingly complicated person. Does that ring true for you? Reading side by side in bed. For once we've taken an early night, even if it's just for a little while. We're side by side, each absorbed in a different world. One of us might be in a submarine beneath the Arctic ice floor. The other is flitting through the salons of the 18th century Paris, but our toes touch every so often and we stretch a hand back to briefly massage the nape of our partner's neck before turning a page. It's very nice, modest, comfortable and rather sweet. We're not in the midst of a heart-to-heart conversation. We're not engaged in a passionate sex. We're not celebrating each other's triumphs or heading to the airport for an exciting mini break. But reading in bed together represents a major achievement. There's not really anyone else we could do this with. When we think of what marriage is for, we don't often think of small pleasures like this. Buying a cheap old vase at the market and a few flowers on the way home. Sitting on the floor together and sorting the socks after the wash. Watching a TV drama together episode by episode. Rinsing and drying the glasses when the friends who came round to dinner have left, assembling that flat-pack bookcase and realising you've both got the instructions wrong and it doesn't matter. A marriage will inevitably contain serious problems because two complicated, independent people can't join their lives without friction. We tend to be more aware of the troubles than of the pleasures. Not because the pleasures aren't there, but because we don't always see what an impressive and important element that they really are. We take them for granted. We don't properly appreciate their uniqueness. It may lack glamour, but being able to read in bed together is a major feat and a sign of deep love. We may be doing better than we think. I'm going to leave it there for today. Don't forget to press subscribe so you get a notification each time I upload a video. Bye from me.